I got a podcast. It's Speaking with Gravity, and I'm Curvin, your host. On this podcast, we talk about mental health and how everything affects everything. As your host, I need you to know this about me. I'm a son, a brother, a husband, a father, a friend who happens to be a therapist. And when you sit with a therapist, the conversation is different. With every episode, what we try to do, the goal is for us to have a conversation that's going to make you, the listener, think, make you feel, make you do what is best for you. I'm a therapist. This isn't therapy. It's a podcast.
How about it when it echo? I sing loud to talk to my inner child. He feeling young dreams made out of Lego.
Today we have another guest with us. Somebody that, again, I've tried to say this and time again. I'm intentional about how I move on social media. I found this brother, seeing him in various groups that I'm in on Facebook with regard to mental health and therapy. And what caught my attention with him was he's a national coordinator for much more than a hashtag, which I thought was a kind of a dope organization that he'll be able to tell us about a little bit more. But in addition to that, he's a mental health therapist. Let me welcome Johnny. I think I'm saying this right. Johnny Gathers, MSW.
Yep.
Thank you for coming in and joining me on this podcast today, man.
Thank you.
So, tell me a little bit more about yourself other than what I just gave to the world.
All right. So, everyone, my name is Johnny Gathers. Originally, I was born in Orangeburg, South Carolina, but grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. During my experience growing up, I've always been a person that loved to help people. My experience actually started when I was 15 years old. When I was 15, I volunteered at a hospital in downtown Philly as a candy striper. So what the candy striper's role was to mainly make sure the patient's needs are met and make sure that they, get what they need. So when I had that first exposure and that experience, it kind of made me have an interest of helping people. Then that expanded more on into, doing summer camp programs with the youth and just getting my hands in any way, shape, or form during my teenage years until I made to the point that, I'm ready to, go to college and see what I could do within my, career path. So
How long were you in Orangeburg?
I was just born there.
Okay.
I was just born there.
So you have a lot of family in South Carolina?
Yeah, my mom's side of the family is in South Carolina, and then my dad's side of the family is Alabama. Mainly what I'll say myself is that I got country blood, but a city mentality.
And do you visit either or throughout the holidays?
I visit both sides. Surprisingly, originally my plan was this year, because my birthday is in a few weeks, I was supposed to go to Alabama to hang out with my dad and stuff. But then since COVID, with the COVID situation, I was like, nah.
When's your birthday?
Christmas Eve.
December 24th.
Yep.
Okay, that's what's up. You just missed being a Sagittarius. My birthday is the 18th, and I think the SAG season ends on the 21st. Mm-hmm. So, you close, but you ain't quite there. So, you grew up in Philly.
Yep, grew up in Philly.
And you went to high school, like public high school, private high school?
Yeah, went to public school. And that's the thing that's, real special about me too, because my family was like real supportive. And during my public school days or whatever, most people saw me as like more advanced. So like growing up, went to preschool. The preschool teacher automatically told my mom that it's not a fit for me to be at preschool. Put him in kindergarten. So I started kindergarten at 4 years old. And the norm with kindergarten, you're supposed to start at 5 years old. But I ended up starting early. I started school early. Matriculated on, went to high school.
So from early on, there was kind of like a little light on you from the beginning.
Yeah.
And teachers and all them, they treated you differently or than the other, I guess, other people or your peers, be that male or female?
No, they didn't really treat me different. They just treat me as a normal student and just wanted to see what my potential was. And was able to see my potential in terms of like growing up in public school days. Also growing up too within that mind state, I was an honor roll student. Always made A's and B's. Never had no problem with that. The only time I took it to a point that I really, in which I did took it serious, like during my early school days, but when I got to high school, I took it real serious because it was a competition at that time. Because the high school I went to, it wasn't like even though it was a public school, but it wasn't a main like school. It was a more of like a specialized school where I had to apply to get entered into, to go into that particular high school. So it was more like magnet. And
Okay.
so with my high school, it was 50 of us that graduate. Yeah, 50 of us in our graduated class and such. So it was like a big, competition when it comes to like academics and stuff. And
Well, once you got into that high school, did you at the point that you got in, you say it's kind of like a magnet school. So you got in like ninth grade.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, did you automatically start thinking about college, or you was just I'm just getting into the school and I just want to do the best I can in the school, or were you already thinking about college?
I started thinking about college my sophomore year. And how even in high school they kind of instilled it within us during our freshman year about thinking about our life goals and everything like that. And my sophomore, my junior year, that's when I started thinking more about college, especially more so when I got into the advanced placement classes. So like during my high school years, I was taking advanced placement English, advanced placement environmental science, in which that kind of stood out more with, the advanced placement environmental science, because I did science fair competitions and I wasn't even expected to do science fair competitions. And I ended up being placed third place within the city, and then within Delaware Valley, I ended up getting third place again with that. And at that time, during those science fair competitions, that's when Penn State was already was looking at me and having their eyes on me because of having that connection with me during those science fair competitions.
So those competitions was kind of like near the campus or on their campus?
No, it wasn't even on their campus. I remember when we did the first science fair in the city, it was like downtown Philly. I think it was like at the convention center or something like that. And then when it was time for like the actual county, like Delaware Valley County fair, was between a lot of schools within the area in different counties. That was at it was like in another city, but it wasn't close to like Penn State or anything like that. They just was there.
Did you have siblings?
Yep, I have siblings. I'm the oldest.
Okay. And did that drive you to try to prove to them that they can do it? Were there any other people in your family that were along the academia lines where they were succeeding or kind of pushing you to aspire to? Or is that just something that you just kind of naturally gravitated to?
I'll say it's two ways. So I'll say the first way, I think I was naturally gravitated towards it because I always had always loved school, always loved education, everything like that. My mom even would tell me the story to this day. Like soon as I started turning 1 year old, I started speaking, saying my whole name, full everything. 2 years old, grabbed the pencil, started writing automatically. So that was like already instilled in me as a young kid. But then also my motivation to be able to where I am today is my family. My dad, he was big on, academics, even though he didn't go to college or anything like that, but he finished, off high school. My mom, it was a different story. My mom ended up dropping out of high school during her senior year. And around that time when I was like growing up and, seeing how my mom put it within myself and my siblings to do good because she didn't want us to fall and follow, her path of, dropping out and everything like that. So that kind of gave me the motivation to say, especially with me being the oldest, strive for everything and strive for anything.
So how many is it all together of you guys?
So it's 4 of us. And then with me being the oldest, I have a brother that's 19. No, I have a brother that's 20, excuse me. A brother that's 20. And I have 2 sisters, 17 and 14.
Okay. And you said your mom kind of dropped out. Your dad did finish high school. Were they together the whole time? Or are they together now?
They was together. I think, like their early adulthood years. Because when I was born, and that's another thing too, another aspect when I was born, because when I was born, I wasn't even supposed to be born on Christmas Eve. It just unexpectedly happened because I ended up being born in South Carolina, because my family, my mom and dad went on a trip, like went down south for my cousin's wedding, and my cousin's wedding was around, that Christmas time. And all of a sudden, boom, I'm here.
Yeah.
I came in part. But my mom and dad, they met each other actually in Philadelphia. They both worked at Burger King, and that's how they, met. And then they, came together and ended up having me and stuff. And
so yeah. How did you get to Penn? You went to Penn State for undergrad.
Yep, went to Penn State for undergrad.
So how did you make that decision based on supporting you so early on, from sophomore year up until you graduated, or was that just one of the ideal schools to go to with you being from that area?
So with Penn State was my first choice, and that was mainly due to the fact of them reaching out to me after the science fairs. And even though once I had got the information about Penn State, I talked to my guidance counselor in high school and trying to figure out what other colleges are out there, because I didn't want to put my eggs in a basket. So besides Penn State, I learned about, different universities like Kutztown. I learned about Lincoln, learned about Wilberforce, and other schools, even in the area of Philly, like Temple and all that stuff too. But more so, I had wanted to go to a university or a college that was outside of the city, because I was at the point that I wanted to get out the house. I wanted to be away and everything. So I did apply to all the schools I named, and between the two, it was between Penn State and Wilberforce, because they was offering more than expected. And
is Wilberforce is it liberal arts, private?
Wilberforce is the HBCU in Ohio. So it mainly was between them and Penn State. Where Wilberforce, they offered me a full ride scholarship and everything. And I had to make the decision between the two. So when I made that decision, I chose Penn State due to the fact of me already having that relationship with them, and plus with it being already in Pennsylvania. At that time when I made that decision, I wasn't really fully prepared to actually move out of the state just yet, because I'm so used to being around family and everything. So
it's called Wilberforce or Wilberforce?
Wilberforce.
Okay, and where is it at? I think I've heard of it.
Yeah, so Wilberforce is in Ohio.
Ohio, okay. Is it one of the first HBCUs?
No.
One of the latter?
Yeah, the first HBCU is Cheney, which is outside of Philly.
Okay. And you said you wanted to get out of the city. Were you in like an urban area, a bad area, or you just was tired of the city, period?
No, I was just tired of the city. I was just tired of the city, and then also I had just wanted to branch off and do different things. Also, plus two, growing up as a teenager, I kind of felt like I was sheltered. Okay. More so the fact because at that time, my mom was a single parent, raising me as a teenager. My mom ended up being a single parent, and also with that fact, my siblings and I, we don't have the same, father. Two of my siblings, they do. They have the same father. And then my youngest sister, have a different father. So my mom raised all of us as as a single parent, and she kind of instilled like a lot of rules, and especially a lot of rules on me because I was the oldest and stuff. So I kind of felt like sheltered because there was moments where I wanted to hang out with my friends and do certain things. She's like, nope, you staying in this house and do what you got to do. And I'm like, I can't wait till I graduate so I can get out of here or whatever. But
I did an interview maybe a week ago, and we were talking about Black men and relationships and being in a family. Based off of you coming from that single parent home, you being the oldest, somewhat of a protector for your siblings, how has that shaped your view of family? What is your view? What do you see in your future, or do you have a family now?
My view of family right now, I say that the connection piece within family is there, and love is there, and it's based on different like experiences. And I could be honest with you because I just had this talk recently with my family about this. There was a moment where, well, I might as well back up with this. I'm gonna just go deep into it. So, 2018, going into 2019, Thanksgiving holiday, I went home to be with the family. I ended up having 3 seizures. Ended up having 3 seizures in my sleep. So I ended up having to stay with my mom, stay with my mom and stay with my siblings. That moment, was a scary moment, trying to figure out what's next, what's going to happen in terms of, my place here in Pittsburgh, my job, the fraternity and everything. It got to that moment, just trying to figure out what's going to happen. So after the 3rd seizure, I, was like bottling up emotions. And after like a particular moment where my mom had said something that strike the nerve, that's when I just had a meltdown, just lashed out. And the moment where I lashed out, that's when I just started like breaking down and talking about just experiences of me growing up. I started talking about when my mom and dad split when I was 10 and how that was an effect on me. I talked about the aspect of how when the whole split up situation happened, where I kind of felt like the third wheel when my siblings came around because their father was, coming and going in Philly, and how my father was all the way in Alabama, and I couldn't, reach out or even visit and everything like that. So I brought that piece up. Even though I was able to communicate with him over the phone, the physical connection piece was missing. Then I talked about the aspects of just life in general in terms of like how certain things played out in terms of like my teenage years and how I felt as though that in me, I felt like I had to, please the family for certain things and not just do things based on how I feel or how I want to do it and such.
This was after you had experienced a seizure, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was after.
Did she see this coming? Had you never expressed something like this before?
No,
So it just came out of nowhere. It didn't come out of anywhere, but it came out.
Happened. It happened. It happened after that moment.
What was the response?
Happened at that moment. And the reason why I think it happened at that moment too, because growing up as well, even though my dad was out of the picture, I had my grandfather. My grandfather was around. I'm his oldest grandchild. There are moments where I wanted to talk to him, but then I didn't talk to him because he was had that stern demeanor and everything. And I was like, no, but I ain't gonna talk to him because if I talk to him, he might snap or whatever. But now it's a different story because after I had released that out to him, released that out to my mom ended up calling my grandfather on speakerphone, and I not lashed out, but told him what happened and everything, and why I was so upset and frustrated and such, and how I just wanted to like release, everything out. And how I had talked to him and told him that there were certain aspects within my, life as a teenager that I was afraid to talk to him about certain things because I didn't want to make him mad or make him angry and everything like that.
What was her response and what was his response? Well, one of her responses was to call him, but in general, what was her response and his response?
Well, her response after that meltdown was that first she like appreciated it. She said, I'm kind of glad that you opened up and say how you feel and everything like that. And it kind of had sucked that it took to me to have those 3 seizures that have, that meltdown moment and stuff. And then also that led to the point of her and my siblings, well, maybe my one sister, saying that, all right, you're a therapist, you love helping people, you give your all to other people. Why don't you, focus on yourself, take care of yourself and everything. So once I had got back well and was able to come back to Pittsburgh, come back to work and everything like that, I had to make some changes within my life. Because the reason why the seizures was happening, because I was stressed. Also, I was sleep deprived. And, in this field, we do a lot of work. We do a lot. Before the seizures, I was working 2 jobs. I was working my full-time job. Then also I was working my another job in the evenings doing outpatient therapy. And that kind of was taking more of a toll than my full-time job because I had over 18 clients, making sure I was meeting all of them. And then plus, everybody wanted to see me in that particular agency because I was the only Black male therapist there within that particular office. So everybody had wanted to see me. And I was just taking them on just because I'm like, everybody wants to take them.
You think I can handle
it. Right. Think I could handle it. But lo and behold, couldn't really handle it as much because I was, overdoing work with them and then going to sleep at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, turn around, get up at 6 o'clock and just doing it all over again.
Now, had you sought therapy prior to this?
Yes, I did. I sought therapy on 3 different occasions. So the first occasion was during, 2017? Yeah, it was 2017. Around that time, I was kind of feeling down on myself where I was trying to get my social worker license. I've been through the tests. At that time, I've been through the test 4 times. And I was like feeling like a failure because I was comparing myself to other colleagues and other friends that got their LSWs. And I was trying to figure out when I'm going to get mine. I've been studying for this test. I've been reaching out to different people, going back to like my old professors from grad school. They're giving me practice exams and stuff like that. And that's when I went to therapy just to talk about that process and making sure and just trying to, give myself some confidence to say that I'm not a failure just because I failed this exam 4 times. So that was the first time. The second time when I went to therapy was after the fact of when I had went through with my seizures. So when I came back to Pittsburgh in February 2019, I met with my same therapist again. And I said, I'm ready to, meet up again because I want to be able to stay stable. Because even though when I left Philly to come back to Pittsburgh after those seizures, I started becoming better, starting thinking, wise, eliminating things that was hindering me or that was real negative to bring me down. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to come back to my therapist so I can stay at this mind state because I don't want to come back to Pittsburgh and then turn away, go backwards and then end up having, another seizure. So I don't want to deal with that. So I went back to therapy for that second aspect. And then the third time I went to therapy was this year when it started the pandemic, because I was just like overwhelmed and frustrated and just upset because at that time of when the pandemic had first started, my current job that I'm at right now had furloughed me just because of them having to make the changes and everything with the pandemic.
And it was some bit of a confusion as to the next move going forward with the pandemic.
Right.
Now, going back to the first time you was in therapy, so you had already graduated from undergrad prior to having your first experience with therapy, right?
Yep. Well, I had already graduated from undergrad, and I already graduated from Pitt.
So basically, you went from high school through college through graduate school, and mind you, all of this stuff was kind of building up over time, and somehow you managed it. Like down through the years, you managed it. I'm pretty sure nobody knew it. From listen to the way you were speaking, nobody knew it. Nope. And now here it is, years later, and it all come to head. And even as a therapist, it slipped up on you because you're thinking you're able to process it and move forward. Was that weird to go to therapy yourself? For you to take that step? Me and you as a therapist always telling people, take the step, man. It's okay. Was it all right for you?
I think it was all right for me. Even the first time when I had went to talk about the test, I was like, you know what? I just want to go. So just to get my mind cleared off, because I was so used to telling stuff to like friends, telling things to my fraternity brothers. And, you get the same story, but I'm like, I'm tired of hearing the same story. I need to hear something, hear something else or whatever. So it's like talking to a brick wall with no response or getting the same results. So that's when I ended up going to therapy. Going to therapy, and I enjoyed the experience. And luckily, with the three opportunities I went to therapy, it was through my job, because my job has an EAP program, and the EAP program is an employee assistant program where all the employees can connect with a particular therapist within that particular frame of the agency. And we was able to get, free sessions, 6 free sessions.
Did you get to choose the therapist, or was it like a certain company that they went with?
It was a certain company that they went with. And then the certain company that they went with had to assign you to the particular therapist that you wanted. So the first time when I did it, I called, talked to my supervisor. I said, well, I want to go to, I'm thinking about going to therapy just to talk about, this exam or whatever. And that's when she said, well, you could, contact our EAP program. And that's when I did that. And then the EAP program connected me with the particular agency within the area that's deal with all the therapists within the area. And that's how I got connected with the therapist. And then the second and third time, I went through the EAP program again, and I told him I want my same therapist.
Okay.
Stuff.
Fun fact too, by the way, I passed on the 4th time, so I took it. I took it 4 times, and you're exactly right. After the first time that I took it, it was like I went in and I said, you know what, I'm just gonna study a little bit. Man, I've been doing this for years. I know this stuff. I'm just going to study a little bit. Study, and I was a few points off. I don't remember what it was. And then the second time I did it, and it was funny because I made a better grade. I'm going to say grade for lack of a better word or phrase. But I made a better grade, but I still didn't pass because they had moved the requirements.
Right.
So then the third time I did it, they did the same thing. They moved the requirements again, and I made better again. So I improved each time, but I still didn't pass. And then I finally passed in the 4th time. Man, like you say, you start questioning yourself. Am I really good at this? Can I really do this? And it's very taxing, man. Very stressful. Just that alone, not to mention any other thing that you have to do.
It is. And even now, like to this day, because some people even like tell me like you got drive. I'm like, yeah, I do got drive because I don't want to, give up on it. And I looked at it because recently I took the test recently for the 8th time, back in October, and I missed it by 8 points. And I thought I was ready. I thought I was confident. I'm like, all right, this is gonna be the 8th time, and this is gonna be the last time. But then, boom, fell. So I was like, but this time I didn't like really put myself, I was upset, but I didn't really overdo it like how I did the other times when I had failed. I was like, all right, I failed. And then the next day, I didn't even worry about it. And then, I was like, you know what? Whenever I have the opportunity again, I'm gonna, take it, just keep trying at it. Because I feel as though like if I didn't want it, I would have had gave up like on the second or third try. Yeah. But if I took it so much all these times now, I gotta go for it. I got
no turning back now.
Right, yeah. I definitely gotta go for it. And then plus the reason why I gotta go for it because of the dream I have in mind or whatever too. And once I had failed the exam, I actually posed this question in one of our groups on Facebook. And it was the question about, well, do people are able to have private practices if they wasn't able to pass their licensing exam? And the comments was like all over. And I had to explain to everybody what my situation was because I'm like, all right, how would you feel if you want to have like your own practice or do like your own thing, but then you can't get past over this hurdle of getting your license and everything like that? So then, some of the brothers was talking about different alternatives and different things, in which I was reading and taking heed into it or whatnot. But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to just, appreciate the path. Appreciate the journey mainly. Appreciate that I got this far. Appreciate that I've been consistently working as a therapist under particular different agencies and stuff abroad since I got my master's. 3, I'm young, 30 years old. Well, about to be 31 soon, but still young. Still got more to go, more to grow. And then also, just got to have faith that it will happen. And then never know what's going to happen in the near future. Even though I'm in the agency that I'm at right now, working as a therapist and working with the kids in the therapeutic classroom and making sure that the families are getting their needs met and everything, and having a connection with the school district here in Pittsburgh, it's a blessing. And never know what else will lead me to in the field. Never know.
How long have you been out of grad school?
7 years.
I didn't even start grad school until 29 or 30, somewhere up in there. So yeah, at 31, you've already been in the field 7 years prior to me even graduating. In fact, I did a lot of case management prior to grad school. So a lot of my experience with regards to therapy actually came after grad school, and you've already, you got 7 years of that. So that's going to be a plus for you. And, in addition to the climate that we're in, man, it seems like there are so many people doing personal development, coaching, the therapy aspect of it. Of course, you got to get licensed for, but you're getting valuable experience right now. And that's probably the biggest, that's one of the bigger hurdles to have to come across when we're talking about having your own private practice and, going on, following through with your dreams. But going back to, you said something about your fraternity. What fraternity are you in?
I am a member of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated. I joined my organization fall 2009 through the Eta Alpha chapter, which is at Penn State University. I joined during my junior year, and then since then I've been involved.
Okay. Any other therapists that you know of in the frat?
Mm-hmm. Yep. One of our fraternity brothers, one of my brothers here in Pittsburgh, part of the graduate chapter here, which is Beta Omicron Omega, he's a therapist. And also with him being a therapist, he's actually he's a licensed social worker. Also, he has his doctorate where
wow.
he teaches social work at a community college here in Pittsburgh. So he's well known. Also, I know other fraternity brothers in different states that are therapists or social workers as well. So
now, you just pretty much named off a couple of people, and I'm assuming they're Black. So Black male therapists.
Yeah.
But isn't it funny how even though we see each other, we know of each other, but wherever we're at in the world, we seem to be the only unicorn in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just speak to me on that experience briefly about going back to when you were saying you were basically working two jobs and people wanted to see you because they wanted to see a Black male therapist. Was it mostly guys? Was it guys and girls? Was it mostly African Americans? Or was it just people requesting you?
It was just people.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you this. So I'm going to go into my whole journey within this career. So once I got to the point of getting ready to graduate, really, I was deciding on if I wanted to stay in Pittsburgh or if I wanted to go back home to Philadelphia. So at that time, I'd be honest, I didn't really want to go back home because I felt as though there's nothing home. There's nothing really to do back home. And plus, I was already making a name for myself here in Pittsburgh, just to the fact of being part of a fraternity, doing a lot of stuff within the graduate chapter here, making a lot of connections in Pittsburgh with other therapists and stuff, especially with this field experience I was getting while I was in school and such. And then out of nowhere, I, contacted someone within our School of Social Work group with Pitt on Facebook. And I said, is there any jobs that's available? Because I want to see if I could find a job in Pittsburgh. So somebody reached out to me, a Black male therapist reached out to me and said, you should apply for this job. So I applied, interviewed, got hired. And I started working 2 weeks after I graduated.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Wow.
2 weeks. 2 weeks after I had graduated with my MSW, that's when I started working at Community Empowerment Association, which is a nonprofit organization in the Homewood neighborhood of Pittsburgh, African American organization, really African centered. And what my role was, I was a therapist. Right soon I got in there as a therapist, working with kids, doing individual and group therapy there. Along with that, I've been with that organization for 4.5 years. And also during that time, like close to like my third or fourth year, I started doing like mobile therapy work for 2 other agencies just to like get my feet in the door, like side hustle or whatever, because we already know as therapists, we don't get paid, paid as much like that.
Contract wise.
Yeah. So then that piece within the 2 other agencies that was doing mobile therapy with, I had let that go because it was, time consuming and they wanted too much or whatever. And then that's what led me into the outpatient therapy position. And that was part-time. And the aspect about it with that, when I first started working with them, even though I was working with my other full-time job at that time, it was more based on my schedule. So I was flexible. I was making my own schedule with them, and just getting my foot in the door. And then once people knew that I was there, that's when the people started just picking up and everything, or other therapists in the agency was referring people to me because they're like, oh, we think you should be a good fit because you're a male. I think you should be a good fit because you're a Black male and stuff like that. Even though with that outpatient therapy position, with my second job, I was working with diverse clients. I was meeting females. Well, no, that's not true. Well, I met with one female, but most of the case was males Most of the cases were males, the youngest was 6 or 7 years old, and then the oldest was 21. Males, biracial, Caucasian, African American. It was just diverse across the board, And I worked with
But mostly males.
mostly males, Um,
What do you like based off all of that experience? What do you like most about therapy itself? As far as being a provider of that.
what I like most in terms of therapy is just being that person to be an open ear, be that person just to say, you know what, you could talk to me about anything. I'm here for you. If I have any suggestions, I could give you these suggestions to work on, and just making sure that everybody is able to get through certain things. And that's what kind of led me into, led into the field of social work and mental health, because I feel as though everybody, has a purpose in life. Everybody is able to, do something. And, most people got to get, support or get, affirmations or recognition and things from other people. But then we got to really look within ourselves and say, you're capable of doing this. You got the strength, you got the gifts, you got the talent. I see it in you, go for it. And I feel as though too, I'm like, if I myself, went through, certain things, been through certain things, and where I am today, you're capable of it as well too, to get through certain things in life.
So I got a question for you. We're gonna end here after this question, and I'm give you a chance to tell what you got coming up, what you're a part of right now. I do, I say this a lot, or I have said this a lot, be that in a presentation or just one-on-one. But 10 years ago, what would you say to yourself 10 years ago about this journey? Graduated from undergrad, graduate school, career-wise, having to go to therapy 3 different times, all these life experiences that you've had over the last 10 years, because that's a major difference from 21 to 31 or 20 to 30. That's a lot. Your whole mind and concept has changed in those 10 years. What would you say to yourself 10 years ago based off of what you know now?
If I was to say something to myself 10 years ago, 21 years old, I'll say mainly just to never give up. Never give up. Shoot, you making me about to make me emotional for real. But yeah, overall, just never give up and just look at how far you came. And it started, like I said, it started from the ground up, being born. One, I was born premature, wasn't unexpected out of nowhere. The family thought I wasn't going to make it. My grandma prayed on me. I ended up, making it. And now the family on both sides, my mom's side and my dad's side of the family, they call me the miracle child. Going through like different experiences of where life could have, could have been cut short. From birth, 12 years old with having appendicitis. If I didn't went to the hospital at that time when I had appendicitis, I would have been dead the next day. And then to these seizures recently that happened out of the blue. And that was a scary moment because I thought I was, going to be dead, thought I was going to die and stuff like that with those seizures because it happened in my sleep unexpectedly. But just looking at those different experiences, which were, some, tough experiences, but also looking at the good within everything and looking at how far I came and just say, keep going, just keep going and keep the drive going. And then also know that there's people watching. There's people watching you. Yeah. There are people watching you.
As they say to LeBron James a few years ago, his campaign, we are all witnesses. It don't take just LeBron's, people like LeBron. Like, we're all witnesses to each other, ultimately. And we're able to learn from each other. We're able to gain inspiration from each other. That's really dope, man. Don't give up. What you got going on right now? Where you at right now?
All right. So right now, ever since, and I could say this, ever since after, the experiences with my seizures and stuff, things kind of took a shift where I'm able to open up more and share like my testimony to others. So lately I've been, participating in different speaking engagements in Pittsburgh and all over the country. What I have coming up right now is I'm supposed to be speaking at an event on Thursday with Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. They invited me on a panel to talk about surviving the holiday season and how the pandemic affected us mentally and physically and emotionally, and just talk about different ways of how we could deal with that. Also still continuing the work and stuff I do within my fraternity. With my fraternity, I had 3 different positions. I am currently right now, I'm the chapter community service chair. Regionally, I am the regional director of community service. I make sure that chapters in 6 different states are doing community service. And then also I am the co-founder / national coordinator for much more than the hashtag, which is our national initiative with Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, where we educate the community on voter registration, citizen review board, jury selection, home ownership, and property taxes. But a big thing that came out of this year alone that I'm proud of is what I do on social media every Friday, which is called JG Mental Health Fridays. And I started that on April 3rd of this year. At that time, that was a moment where I was like just at a sunken place because I was trying to figure out what can I do during this pandemic? What's next? What's in store? Because at that time, that's when I had just got furloughed and I was like distraught and was trying to wonder, how can I help people? How can I do this or how can I do that while I'm furloughed? How can I be an asset to other people? Because people were still, reaching out to me and seeking me for guidance and stuff and everything. So I was like, you know what? God put the idea in my head and said, all right, I want you to do JG Mental Health Fridays. And then lo and behold, I've been doing that every Friday.
Now, on those Fridays, what are you doing? Just what's the basis of it?
So mainly what I do is that every Friday I talk about different topics that, affect us on a general basis. I give my own feedback on it. And then also I provide coping exercises that anyone can do from a younger child to an older adult. Even when I do promotions and stuff for JG Mental Health Fridays, I even ask people if they have any words or topics that they want me to address. They go, always reach out to me because I put the JG Mental Health Fridays videos on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And since I started it, I've been getting good feedback from people, even people in our cohorts, colleagues, my fraternity brothers, just people all over, just say, keep doing this because we love it, and people share it out and everything. And it just, another piece, because at first I just wanted to do it just to help, just to get my mind off of not working and that furlough moment, just to get my mind off of it. But then since then, I just started loving it, and I've been consistent with it.
I appreciate you for doing that, man. I've seen this year, and I don't know if it's just that I'm noticing it, but it just seems like it's so much out there for people to attach themselves to. Starting, of course, with individual therapy, but there's so much group therapy. There are a lot of people putting out relevant content with regards to mental health on IG, on Facebook, podcasts. But
Right.
we're doing it separately, but together. We're all joining each other and putting our hands together to try to put ourselves out there in the best light for our community as a whole, our physical community, and then community that we attain as we grow and get older or whatever. But thank you for coming through, man, blessing us with your presence. I am definitely going to show up to IG Mental Health Friday.
Yep, JG Mental Health Fridays.
JG, I said IG. JG Mental Health Friday.
Mental Health Fridays. I put them out on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I even shared it out on our the Black Male Therapist groups. I put it up every Friday, and that's another thing too, because even with doing the videos, that's how I was able to connect with like other therapists as well too, like Martinez Sellers. Once he had saw a couple of my videos, he invited me on some of his Facebook Live events, and they kind of like basically led me to connect with different people in the same field, and also us as men to say that we are not alone, because we already know that it's not a stigma. We already know that social work and mental health is a Caucasian, female-oriented career field. But this time, it's a blessing for us as men, Black men, to be able to say that we are in this field too, and we could be able to help people out and help each other out, because we love the work that we do, and we got a calling to do it.
I've said this time and time again with some of my other guests, I want to have you back on. It probably won't be able to talk about your story. It might be to talk about mental health, the state of mental health, maybe a certain diagnosis or something, but definitely want to have you back on, man. Always keep up with you. I plan on doing this at least for a few years. Started this with the thought of, very much like you were saying, kind of getting yourself out there, connected with other people. But I enjoy doing it. I really love doing this. I love talking about mental health. I like being in the room, even if it's virtual, with like-minded people. So again, I really, really, really appreciate you coming through, man, and blessing us with your presence. Is there anything you want to give us in parting before I close it out?
I'll say in parting, for everyone that's listening out there, do not be afraid to share your emotions. After hearing my story about how I was holding things in and just, rolling through with the punches, it took to a point that I had to, get sick to release my emotions. And now, after going through that experience, I'm able to reveal and share my emotions and not be afraid to hold it in. So if you have anything that's in your heart or that's in your mind that you need to release, be able to release it. Don't let it bottle up, because it's going to affect you physically, mentally, and emotionally. If you feel as though that you need to, pray on it, yes, you can pray on it. But also, if you need to talk about it, talk to someone. Talk to your friends that you could trust. Talk to your family members that you can trust. And if you feel as though you need to go to a therapist, do it. And don't put yourself to a point to say that, oh, I'm going to a therapist, that means I'm crazy. I'm going to a therapist, that means something wrong with me. No, you're going to a therapist to strengthening yourself. They're going to therapy and seeking help within yourself is a strength, not a weakness.
So how can I get in contact with you via social media?
All right. So on Facebook, my name on Facebook is Johnny, JOHNNIE, RM Geathers, GEATHERS. On Instagram is JG the Mastermind. And then on LinkedIn is Johnny Geathers. MSW.
Once again, I'm your host, Kervin Searles. You can also check me out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I think I'm the only Kervin Searles in the world, maybe not. But if you just Google that, you should be able to find me. If I said something, if Johnny said something to make you think about using therapy, please seek it in your area. There's so many ways that you can find it. You can go on to Psychology Today. You can go on Therapy for Black Girls, Therapy for Black Men. There's also another website called Open Path Collective. And I'm pretty sure there's thousands or more that I'm not even mentioning. But if all else fails, you can get in contact with Donnie. I'm volunteering him. Or you can get in contact with me via social media, and we'll try to point you in the right direction. As far as this podcast, Speaking with Gravity, if you'd like to donate, you can, of course, cash out me, $, the Gravity Group. Big thank you to my wife, my children, all those connected with me who influenced me, encouraged me, support me from time to time. And thank you. Most of all, thank you to listeners for taking the time to listen. You could be doing anything and maybe doing anything, but you chose to listen to me, and I appreciate that. Remember, I'm a therapist. This ain't therapy. It's a podcast.